Good evening, everyone, and welcome once again to the Writer's Room. I am your co-host, Kat Rocha, the night editor, and with me, as always, is
Jay Ishirofeni, author and alien in a human suit. And yes, it is true, we like ice cream.
Aliens Like Ice Cream?
Yeah, they do.
How many times do you abduct Ben and Jerry's?
That's a story for another time.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, tonight we are very excited to have William Hastings on the show. And not only that, but we have the panel back to join us. So everybody, starting with William, please introduce yourselves.
Hi, everybody. I'm William Hastings. I'm the author of Vagabond Legacy and Vatican Championship Wrestling. I am New Pub's King of Pain, and I'm very glad to be back on this show.
We're happy to have you back. Next, who wants to go next?
Oh God, I'm a zombie. I'm a zombie Florida woman that's unfortunately been kidnapped by retail work.
What?
Yeah.
That sounds like the most horrible zombie ever.
Help me! I can't escape. Only through writing.
For good writing with pew pews.
You are
Yes,
you are her
help me.
only escape, Will. Do you understand?
Help me!
Hey everybody, I am a Buddy Lord, otherwise known as Blade Knight Publishing. I've created Sins of the Fae. It's a great story about how Fae are sort of like aliens. They come to our world, we accept them, and then our own gods turn against us. So
The ultimate Karens. Dun dun dun.
yeah, they are kind of annoying, you know. I mean, they're going to tell the manager about you, about that about you said a bad word 20 years ago, and so they're going to try and cancel you now.
Those
With
damn
eternal
Karens.
curses and pain. Ah!
So, everyone, as always, links in the descriptions below on where you can find William's books. As we are talking, if you hear about something you find interesting, check it out. And we will make sure that we get Fiona and Buddy in there as well. So, William, let us start with well, is there anything in particular that you would like to start off talking about this evening?
No, I guess it's been I haven't been here since the launch of Vatican Championship Wrestling, so maybe we could start talking about that.
Perfect, because I absolutely love the avatar that you have there.
Oh,
So tell
thank
us
you.
about
Gotta keep pushing the product at all times.
Vatican Championship Wrestling. I know we've got several people in the chat who are wrestling fans.
Well, I'm a big wrestling fan as well. Vatican Championship Wrestling is a fictional fantasy novel taking place in a wrestling company. It is about an exorcist who has to join and infiltrate a very WWE-esque organization in order to expel a demon from a wrestler. It launched on Indiegogo. It was a pretty big success, and it's been a really, really exciting departure for me as an artist. I've really enjoyed writing it. It's a lot shorter, a lot simpler, very punchy, exciting. Only about 125 pages, and I recommend you all check it out.
Very cool. And are there plans for doing for more epic battles in the future?
Yes, actually, I wasn't sure at first, but given the reception that the first one has received, I've started working on a series, and at the moment, it's planned to be 6 installments. The second one, which is what I'm currently writing now.
Perfect. And Fizz Chozo asks, can a demon use a wrestler's body to kill lots of people?
Those are the questions that this series answers. You know, it's important need to know stuff like that.
Can he just grab someone like a barbarian and start using their leg as a club? You know, I mean, what is that? Improvised weapon. There we go. In D&D rules, improvised weapon.
Does the Undertaker figure into this at all?
Well, a lot of the characters are inspired by real life wrestlers. And I don't want to spoil anything, but if you're looking for an Undertaker-esque character, Book 3, Slam of the Damned, is looking to be the one that has that.
Slam of the Damned.
Yes.
Welcome to the jam. The slam instead. Yes. I'm punny sometimes. Just sometimes.
I'm suddenly picturing Satan's elbow. So I do gotta ask, if you're going to have a wrestler fighting demons, comparisons are going to be made to El Santo at some point.
Wait, what's his name, by the way?
What's whose name?
The hero wrestler. What's his
The
wrestling name?
Exorcist. His name is Gabriel Blackwell.
Pretty righteous name.
Well, I mean, when he enters the ring, do they say Gabriel Blackwell, the
Yes,
Exorcist?
because one of the interesting things about Gabriel is that he's an exorcist. He works for the Vatican, but his father was a professional wrestler, so he grew up very familiar with the professional wrestling business. Oh, and I don't know if I was super clear about this, but this book is written as if professional wrestling is 100% a real sport.
Nice.
Did you know that at one point El Santo had to fight werewolves in the ring
And vampires.
and vampires
So that's the kind of stuff we're going for.
that tried to kill him with karate?
Yes.
I've been watching the wrong things.
El Santo is the silver masked man who has been ordained by God to fight demons and wrestle.
I mean, doesn't it mean saint?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, if you've been disappointed about paranormal angles, this will probably just rejuvenate people.
Yes, and believe me, nobody's more disappointed in paranormal angles than I am. That's one of the reasons I wrote this book.
Cough!
Awesome.
Need a break. Cough!
Yeah, I am there with you. Okay, I gotta ask, half in joke, half honest question. What's his theme song?
His theme song is
Yes.
actually it's a piece of music from Handel's Messiah that has been altered to be more sportsy.
Nice. So like a metal version, or
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's too cool. So awesome. And people can find this where? On Amazon?
This is on Amazon. It is only 99 cents on Amazon. But if you are more of an audio person, it is available now on Audible, and it is performed by former WWE superstar Matt Rehwoldt.
Really?
Yes, and he performed under the name of Aiden English. He's a trained vocalist, and he did an amazing job bringing this story to life.
You always get the some really great voice actors to do your stuff.
Yeah, I always try to get people who sort of fit the story.
Excuse me, I'm going to go buy it right now. Thank you.
I
Actually,
appreciate it. You guys are really going to like this. He does the audiobook almost as if he's calling the match next to it, so it's very exciting.
Oh, too cool.
That is so awesome.
Okay, I've got credits. I know what I'm getting. When I
You saw the credits.
Yes, we're listening to this.
No, I actually
Audible?
didn't know that it was an audio. So, so yeah, I am totally nabbing this.
And the link is in the description.
So actually, this is a great
You
segue.
get an audio. You get an
Get an
audio.
audio.
Everybody can buy
And,
an
and if
audio.
you buy the 99-cent book, you can get the audio for like $7.50 if you don't have any spare credits. It's okay. My wallet is screaming. Buy wallet, but I get my tax return soon. Buy wallet.
You can put a gag in your wallet for a little bit. But actually, that is a great segue to your other series, which also has an audio. But let's tell the good people about it first before we get into your audio drama. So tell us about Vagabond.
Okay, well, Vagabond Legacy is a coming-of-age dark fantasy saga. And it is a YA novel, and I mean that in very, very specifically. A lot of the times these days, YA means people in their 30s. This is written for people 15 to 99. It is a very dramatic, very emotional story set in this rich and exciting fantasy universe that is based on Italy and Greece. It's about abuse. It's about recovery. It is about heroism. I'm very proud of it. And I'm looking forward to the second chapter of it, which releases later this year.
And I'm really excited to read the second book as well when it comes out. So let's see. What inspired Vagabond?
Well, a lot of the ideas of Vagabond were kicking around in my head for a long time, but what really brought it out was um, I was working in a very troubled school district at the time I wrote it. A lot of these students had been through very rough, very horrific situations, particularly for somebody so young. And it got me, I would look at the bookshelf that was in our classroom, and I would wonder what stories are these kids going to relate to? What stories are going to connect with them? And I came up at kind of a loss. A lot of the stories that are written for these young audiences are kind of out of touch with the realities that certain people live with, and that was what sort of spurred me on.
Well, I do have to say that what really struck with me when I read your first book, Crimson Spark. Sorry, the microphone was being moved in front of me. Was that your characters are your child characters specifically are real, and they have a lot of flaws. And I remember that really stuck with me, especially the fact that we live in a age of whammons and super female protagonists that don't need no man and are perfect at everything, and that is definitely not the case with your stories.
Oh no, not at all. The female protagonist of the Crimson Spark is a very, very troubled, very, very flawed character, and it was a real pleasure working with you and helping bring her out.
Oh, yes, I helped to edit his book. So, and I will have to say with Nia, what still sticks with me and what really sold me on your book and told me, okay, no, this is something different, was I was reading Nia's introduction and I wrote to you and I said, you do realize she's coming off as a kind of a sociopath? And you said, yeah, that's the way she's supposed to be. It's like, okay.
Yes, the only female character in modern fiction that is intended to come off as a sociopath.
And it is definitely a bad thing that she acts that way.
Yes, and the course of the story is her sort of finding her heart and learning how to love again and be a good person and coming to terms with the fact that she is a girl and she hates it, and that's okay, because she has this strength, this support system that she discovers along the way, and she makes friends and they learn from each other. It's the kind of story that you want to read just to see the characters grow and change and develop. I think that's the big draw of the story, are the character arcs.
Oh, wait a minute. So that means you didn't forget about their actual virtues? Oh my.
So is this based on a real case you had then?
Pardon?
She didn't like being a girl. Is this based on something you actually had to deal with?
Yes. I've met actually several people over the course of my life that are female. And, they're not transgender or anything like that, but they resent being female, and therefore sort of try to obfuscate it, dress different, act different. And Naya is like that. She does not want to be female, but she is.
I saw a report this week that said 40% of Gen Z identify with being LGBT.
Which isn't statistically possible.
No.
Yeah. And I'm gonna be honest, when I was younger, I had my tomboy phase, but I didn't feel like oh, I want to be a boy. Like every once in a while I'd think like, I wonder what it would be like to be a boy for like one day just to see what's different. But I wasn't seriously considering like, oh, I'm a boy but trapped in a girl's body. It's like,
well, the former psychiatric professional in me says, let's remove the rewards, the Pavlovian signals, and see what happens.
That's a good point.
Well, I'll just be upfront. Nobody crushes on a tomboy that actually wants to be a boy. We crush on the tomboys that want to be female but are still tomboys.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know. I mean, there is something to the woman that just I don't want to say has boyish, because I don't really consider them boyish looks, but they're just different. You know what I mean? I mean, women come in all shapes and sizes, and if you see someone that has, you know, what other people consider masculine traits or whatever, it's like, okay, cool. You know, I mean, I have a character, Kaylee, that's got like short hair, and she's like extremely muscled, and you know, we talk about that because it's like the metabolism in her body, and it's always working, and later on, like, she loses her powers for a while, and all she can do to kind of retain that feeling is work out all the time. And so she, you know, to the outside look, oh, she looks like a boy, but she's not. She just, you know, she's just who she is. And I don't know, like, that's, you know, what I get into is like, you remove those keys, you know, let's remove the rewards, let's remove the parties and the, oh my gosh, you're this, that's so great, and everything else. Like, shouldn't everybody be celebrated?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, actually, I don't think anybody should be celebrated unless they do something for it.
Well, I just mean that as far as like when I say celebrated, because what they're saying is that's the minimum respect that a human being should get. So if it is, shouldn't everybody get that?
And with that said, I'd like to circle back to William's book, because one thing I really liked about it as well is, William, you do a great balancing act of not only are you following Nia, but Leo as well. So you truly have two protagonists, both a boy and a girl, and both of them have their own struggles. And I liked how Leo, he has his own things that he's overcoming, but he's definitely not, well, he's not a Harry Potter character, which is the other thing that you see an awful lot of nowadays, are these, you know, Harry Potter stand-ins, especially in a fantasy setting. Talk about Leo a little bit.
Sure. Leo is the male protagonist. He is a boy whose twin has died. And he begins we find him in the beginning of the story suffering from a mysterious injury that he is unwilling to talk about. It prevents him from using his arm properly. Now, he is a combination of a bunch of different ideas that I always had, and inspiration that I took particularly from older writing about orphans at the turn of the century, particularly Pip from Great Expectations. He was a big inspiration. Pip and Gavroche from Les Miserables were sort of the, I guess you could say, the grandparents of what Leo became. Leo's arc involves him coming to terms with his fears, his anxieties, and his codependent nature that comes from him being half of a complete set, essentially, at the death of his twin.
Very interesting. And again, not something that you usually see.
No, and it's again something I encountered in my real life, and not something I've seen in a lot of stories. He is weakened, but he's not weak. You know, he is the kind of character that overcomes adversity and will rise to challenges and become a hero. That's really what the story is. It's him and Nea working together to improve each other and become heroes.
So what do you hope for readers to take away from this story?
I think it depends on the person, but I hope readers take away a sense that there is a way that people are supposed to be able to grow up peacefully. You know, there's a way that children should be able to grow up free of this darkness. And if that darkness is present in your life, that is abnormal. That is wrong. That's something that should be.
So you want to make the really the point of it is, like, you have these kind of traumatic moments, and you want people to feel uncomfortable because you want them to have that sense like this is what it's not supposed to be.
Yeah, I do. I do. I do want to make people feel uncomfortable, not in the sense that I want people to not enjoy the story, but I want people to be given a portrayal of the world that the story takes place in that is real
Well, you
and
want
doesn't
to,
pull any punches.
yeah, you want to challenge them. I mean, I think you have to do that to a certain extent. You've got to challenge the reader to get out of their comfort zone. You know what I mean? There's a lot of like there's there's a lot of new psychological and psychiatric information and neuropsychology about learning, about encoding, and taking something from short-term bursts into actual long-term memory, right? And one of the things they talk about that is that you have to have a sort of cognitive pressure, you know, and that cognitive pressure has to challenge you. It's got to feel a little fuzzy. If it doesn't, you're not doing anything. And I think emotions are the same way. You know, if you're
Yeah,
not
I was told that true growth lies outside of the comfort zone, and that's
exactly.
true for the characters in the story, certainly. But I found it's true in my own life, so it's there's a combination of things I would like the reader to feel.
So
Yeah.
what you're saying is this younger generation is too comfortable, and we need to like pull the rug out from under them and make them feel really, really offended and uncomfortable.
Maybe I don't know if I'm being deliberately like a provocateur, but I would say that a lot of current year fiction for younger people it feels like it's been produced in another language by an entirely different species to me. I don't know what I'm looking at. There's no sense of reality or connection to any of the stuff that I've read or looked at, and I found it to be fake and inauthentic.
You're the goodest and the bestest ever, and you always win. And
Well,
I think
actually,
it's even worse than that. I think that instead of saying that like they're the best at everything, which they already do that, they've made it so that not only are they the best of it at everything, but like education has taught everybody that you don't have to learn, right? They're not teaching people how to think, how to critically assess things. What they're saying is they're teaching them what to know. And so because they teach them what to know, they by proxy create this whole freaking legion of arbiters. So everybody thinks that they're completely right. And if you disagree with them, you're completely wrong.
And there is another aspect of Vagabond Legacy is I don't really talk about this part of it much, but it is about a generation of young people that are mistreated and abandoned and sort of left by the wayside. And that is very much what happened to the generation that I grew up a
you mean
part
Gen
of.
X?
You know, that is a lot of millennials. The mental illness statistics among millennials are insane. And there's a reason for that. And this story echoes the sort of generational pain that Gen X, Gen Z, Gen Y, and millennials feel.
and
I think, not to sound pretentious or anything, but
I
it's
don't know. I think millennials, it was the other way around. It was too much attention.
well, one thing that, and I'm glad that because great segue into my next question was another thing that really stood out to me with Vagabond is you do not have a stand-in for Hitler as your bad guy.
Oh,
Your
no,
bad
not
guy.
at all.
Well,
Oh, boy.
your antagonist, I should say, the Briars.
What?
And
You don't have a fascist?
and
That's the only enemy.
and you'll have to forgive me. I can never pronounce his name.
Beljar, like Sylvia
Beljar,
Plath.
thank you. What's great is when they are introduced, it's just like with a lot of cults where they start off with something that's like, yeah, that makes sense. And oh, I agree with that. And yeah, that makes sense too. And they like slowly pull you in. And so I liked that there are characters that are part of the Briars that you as the reader kind of feel bad for and don't necessarily want to see something bad happen to them.
Yeah, the Briars, the main antagonists of the story, the revolutionary army known as the Black Briars, are composed of people much like the protagonists, Leo and Nea. They come from these dark, tragic backstories, and they are collected and roped into this very appealing, very attractive way of viewing the world from this very charismatic central figure. But what the point of that part of the story is to illustrate that sometimes you can be led against an evil into a completely different evil. A group of people who are preying on children in a different way. These people are instead organizing them into being soldiers and manipulating them into being political figures rather than letting them just be children, which is the whole crux of the story.
All right, question. Bell jar, is that a Sylvia Plath reference?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's also just a name I always liked.
Oh, you can't leave it there. Come on.
Okay. Well, a lot of the names in Crimson Spark come from misheard or misidentified sounds and words that I heard growing up and just sort of imprinted on my brain. CRU, Zenemanza, these were all things that I thought I heard growing up, but were actually misheard sentences that I understood later. So that's how I named my characters.
That's I wondered how.
So did
came
you
up with
name
your
anybody
names.
like, Dabba Dee, Dabba Die,
No, afraid not. I never had any trouble understanding that stuff.
Oh boy, it reminds me of the Blue Man Group.
That was the point.
Yes. But no,
Very-
in terms of stories, there's more than just stand in for a political figure you don't like. There's actual elemental evil out there, like Sifwa.
Really, I think at this day and age, if you're going to write a sci-fi story, that should be the enemy. That should be the villain you should pattern them after.
Sifwa?
Yes.
Yeah.
You get to give them that name too. SIF
Yeah.
WAH.
Yeah, it's Gaelic,
It
right?
sounds a lot like syphilis,
There you go.
Well, they probably all have it. Okay, so
So, now I know you have big plans for this series, and as you mentioned before, book 2 is going to be coming out at the end of the year. But how far in the future do you have your epic plan for? Because I know a lot of people want staying power.
Yes, this is going to be an 8-book series.
Excellent. And how much of those 8 books do you already have mapped out?
Well, the second book is written. It's completely finished. It's being edited. The third book is fully outlined, and I'm planning to start drafting that as soon as I finish VCW 2.
Pope Speedoo. We will all outpace George R.R. Martin.
Outpace a lot of people. Fizz wants to know if you remember being a toddler.
Yes, I do. My memory goes back really, really far. My earliest memory is from when I was, I think, 1.5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. Now, okay, gotta ask. You can get Crimson Spark in audio as well as on Amazon.
Yes. Spark is available in ebook, paperback, hardcover, and Audible.
And how did you get Vic to be your reader?
Well, I grew up in the early 2000s, so I heard Vic all throughout my childhood. Anime dubs were a big thing growing up for me, Eastern Invasion and all that. And I always wanted to get somebody from that sphere to do the reading for me, and I didn't ever really know. I don't know if Vic was the first person I thought of when I did that, but when Spark was finished and I was looking around for an audiobook person, I saw that Vic was available, and I figured, he's not going to say yes, but I asked him anyway, and he not only said yes, he absolutely destroyed it. It's one of the best things I've heard in my life. It was like reading the story all over again.
That sample is like, yeah, there, like, sometimes I can decide within a minute or two if I'm going to listen to a book based on the sample as far as the audio goes. Because some narrators, they're better for certain things than others, but some of them just nail it out the gate.
Yeah, I was blown away by the way he captured the world, the characters, the emotions of the story, the accents. He does everything perfectly, and I cannot wait to work with him again for the next one.
Well, since we've got a lot of writers in the chat, is he affordable?
Yeah, difficult question. It depends on, I guess. I would
That
say
would be a
no.
no. Okay.
But
Well,
it was worth it.
Yeah, it was
I
worth it.
have
Yes,
seen some
absolutely
people
worth it.
do like crowdfunding for audiobooks, and sometimes they have about $10,000 or more for the goal. I'm like, ooh boy, oh my!
Yeah,
So,
and
But
sorry, not only to say that he was an incredible talent to work with, he's also one of the most genuine, kind people it's ever been my pleasure to meet. He's the kind of guy who'll call you up on his birthday to see how you're doing.
Well, I figure considering what a bad deal or raw deal that Vic has been given, I figure the more work we can throw his way, the better.
Mhm.
Yes, absolutely.
So, because I know we got a lot of people in the chat who, are writers, aspiring writers. Can you tell us about your experience hiring a reader and working with a reader for your audiobooks now that you have two of them and you've worked with two completely different types of readers?
Yeah, well, I think that the most important thing that you can consider when you're doing an audiobook is hire an actor. I would say not just a reader, but an actor, somebody who's going to perform the story. Um, and then this is the tricky part: is you have to kind of divorce yourself from the story and let their interpretation of it come out, because that's what actors do. They read the script and then they see something in it that even the writer doesn't, and they bring that out, and it can be really amazing, even for you as the writer, when you finally see something in your story that you didn't realize was there.
Interesting.
I would have to agree with that.
Mhm.
I mean, that makes
I-
sense because I mean they're used to reading the script and trying to pull out the character, right? So they have a skill that you don't have.
Well,
Yeah,
when we were
absolutely.
doing
And Matt's the same way. Matt's an actor, and working on VCW with him was great. I'm totally sold on on both of them for the rest of these series, and I'm looking forward to hearing the next stories, because I'm learning more about my own world and my own characters from them.
Nice.
That's very nice. Has working with these actors and hearing them tell your stories, has it had an impact on how you've moved forward with telling these stories or telling these characters? Like you hear that their voice in your head, or they've brought an element to the character that you hadn't thought of before?
Yes, yeah. A lot of the time, when I'm writing, I will hear an exchange that they performed in my head, and I will be able to sort of course correct, adjust the dialogue depending, and it'll be better, richer for that, because I've heard it spoken.
That's interesting.
and my brain just caught up with this with Vic. Like, oh wait, that's the guy who did the Dragon Ball Z stuff and everything else. But his voice sounds so much different when he's narrating this book, so it didn't even connect to my brain until
Hey,
I
that's
got
the
that.
Yeah,
I'm like,
he does
what?
a really. You won't recognize a lot of the anime stuff. He immerses himself in the role completely. If you ever wanted to hear Broly from Dragon Ball Z play a little Scottish girl, then this is the one for you.
Well, I do know watching him in was it Star Trek Continues?
Yeah.
Was amazing because it's like I totally was sold on, okay, yeah, you're James T. Kirk. He fell into that role so well. It was uncanny. So
Yeah, absolutely. Star Trek Continues, which he funded the production of Star Trek Continues himself. It was a real labor of love for him.
Well, him and Doohan's son, right?
mhm.
I believe so.
So yeah. Let's see. Do we have anything in the chat? Yes, people, if you have questions, please feel free to voice them.
Well, I would actually second the fact that when you've got an actor reading your book or a script, let them have some freedom to make it their own. You're going to get a
Yeah,
better
absolutely.
performance.
let them explore the space, get to know the character, put their own spin on it, because it's that kind of real authenticity that you'll get from an actor. It's better than somebody just reading the book your way, I think.
Although I got to admit, it was a little strange. I don't know if Lance Axt, who did Titanium Rain, but also Death Wore Grease Paint, his original reading, he made it sound more like the clown from the old Kellogg's commercials.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he must have heard somewhere that I had based him on Steve-O, because the second time he read it just like Steve-O.
And it was kind of uncanny.
Yeah.
That
I never
Titanium Rain
noticed-
is on my to listen to pile. So
Right? I never noticed how much his name, until just this moment, how much his name sound like punk rock bands, or his titles.
Yeah?
Yeah, yours. I was like, that really sounds like. I mean, I could just see like Titanium Rain. I just imagine like a percussive based punk band. You know, like they just have like 3 different drums, and all you hear is just all. You know, you're just like ah. It's kind of music, you know, that like it accidentally comes on in the morning, and you don't just jump out of bed, like you're already in clothes and everything.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Scars, Death Wore Grease Paint. Yeah, okay.
You're like, shut up.
So, let's see. We know that you're working on the sequel to Crimson Spark.
Yeah, what can we expect from the next one?
Yeah. Anything you can talk about or feel comfortable
yeah,
talking
I
about?
could talk about a lot. The
Will there
next
be
one
any
is going to
wrestling?
introduce 2 new protagonists who will come into the story alongside Leo and Nea from Spark. There will be 4 different perspectives as opposed to just the 2 in Spark, and these characters are going to begin this very long, very complicated odyssey that will eventually wind up with the 4 of them meeting together. And Opal Embers is much more high fantasy than Crimson Spark. It's got a lot more, as you can see by the cover, you know, it's got the big dragon on it. I'm going full in on the sword and sorcery angle on this one.
So, Beljar, what did you base him on?
Beljar is based on a couple of different people that I find really, really interesting. Most of all, though, he's based on a man named David Koresh.
Oh,
I don't know
okay.
if do you guys know who he is?
Oh, I watched it on the news in real time.
Same here.
Yeah,
That name sounds familiar, but I'm drawing a bit of a blank.
The
Was it a
David
little bit
Koresh
before
cult
my
was
time?
The Branch Davidians in Waco, Texas.
Oh,
There was a standoff, and the Clintons felt like ending it early.
Okay, yeah. Even though I don't recognize that part of the name, I recognize the Waco part.
Yeah. It's,
sort of the idea of this cult leader that has maybe more complicated motivations than we realize, and thanks a lot in part to what Kat helped me parcel out during our editing sessions, Beljar's legacy and the way that he did things, it's going to echo through every single book in the series.
Yeah.
Them
And-
ripple effects. Mm-hmm.
And he's
Yeah,
another
definitely.
character that I liked because he has long talks with Leo about what the Blackbriars are doing, why basically what he wants to accomplish with them. And though I personally did not agree with his motivations, in reading it, I could see where some readers would. And I really liked that.
Yeah, and I've gotten feedback from readers saying that they loved everything except they were with the Briars to the end. You know, they didn't turn against them, and I like that perspective, and it's something I'm considering going forward as I write the sequels. The perspective of the Briars is going to become more and more nuanced. You're going to meet people that followed this religion to this path of political and religious fervor to the very, very end of their lives, and still remain devoted to it. Particularly in the Opal Embers, you'll see a lot of characters like that.
Well, David Koresh was a very charismatic hippie and folk singer, like another very charismatic hippie and folk singer that is named Charles Manson. Difference was he was even more charismatic than Charles. And to this day, the Koresh followers still exist, and they're pretty certain that he's Jesus, and that the siege on Waco was, in fact, the apocalypse, and they are now in the tribulation. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of that. Now, I don't like to do real world allegory a whole lot at all if I can help it. But Bilger's primary inspiration was David Koresh, yeah. And the sort of unusual sympathy that he draws is going to be a theme throughout.
But unlike postmodern's angle on sympathy villains, yes, it sounds like this story is not going to go that route of like sympathy for the devil.
I mean,
yeah, neither of my books are. Just because Bilger is relatable doesn't mean that his goals are noble. It doesn't mean that he's going about them in a good and just way. At the end of the day, he is manipulating children in the same way that the people who hurt Leo and Nea in the past are.
Does he have a harem of kids?
Not quite.
Okay, well, yeah, Koresh. So
Koresh did, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was in the I don't know, he was in the perfect place to do that. I've been to Baylor, and yeah, their students are interesting.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is a Christian university, and they're very open about that. But it's like it has the party school kind of, that's what people think of it as. Like, there's another one too that's like some Western WCU, I think, or TCU, Texas Christian University, and Baylor both are considered like the party schools because they're like, oh yeah, they call it Christian, but everybody goes there just to like, you can do whatever you want and be forgiven.
Xlurb says, the website Audible says this is teen and young adult. Why would an adult reader or listener like this? In the past, I've liked Heinlein's juveniles, but that was Heinlein.
That's a very good question, and I've had that a couple of times. Why would you want to read a YA book in your late 20s, 30s? But I can say that if you want to feel something, I don't necessarily know what you're going to feel. You might feel sad, you might feel angry, but you will feel something when you read this book. And I think that's why we seek out fiction, to make us feel things.
Have you ever thought about basing a villain on Bono?
Bono? maybe in VCW.
Okay, guys, just to let you know, there's one review right here.
Have you ever thought about basing a villain on Trudeau? I'm just saying.
Oh boy. But I'm just saying, there's this one review right here that makes me happy. The characters are well developed, warts and all, without being morally gray. Heck yes!
Yes.
That's the idea.
I agree with that completely. I mean, I've said it multiple times that I am all about the flaws for characters, because that's what makes a character, are their flaws, not all of the wonderful, marvelous things that they can do. And I love that every character that you present has flaws. Every character is well-rounded. And like we've been talking about with Beljar, I thought, okay, yeah, you have good points that I agree with, but you're still wrong. And I like that. Again, he's not a Hitler stand-in.
Yeah, I like complicated characters, and I always have, but I also like heroes, and I like villains, and I like that kind of good versus evil narrative. And I didn't want to sacrifice either one in writing the story. So I wrote it with flawed characters who work very hard to do the right thing and defeat the darknesses in the world.
Well, I think the interesting thing, I mean, people were jokingly saying Trudeau, but the thing about someone like Koresh that makes him scary is nobody wants to die for Trudeau. Koresh had a whole horde of people willing to die for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. A person who is charismatic, the really great villains, in my experience, are the ones who are very sensible, and you can sort of imagine yourself. Oh, if a few things were different, maybe I would be like this person. And Beljar is very much Leo if Leo went down a different path.
Mhm.
That and the slippery slope is front and foremost. Like once you basically give in to messing up your own morals, well, there comes the slippery slope.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think I mean, to me, it's always come down to the specific choices, more or less. And that's the thing is, it's like, okay, when it is your turn to make to make this choice or make these kind of choices, what is behind you? You know what I mean? And then you get into that whole idea of the thousand and the 999 out of 1,000. It wasn't the thousandth stroke. It wasn't the decision that made it. It was everything that went into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, as writers, like one of the things that we all are purveyors of behavior. We all watch behavior without even knowing it. We're all somewhat empathetic. We're all emotionally aware because you have to be. You can't be unaware of emotion and understanding of human development and right.
Yes, definitely. And
Absolutely.
for all this sad children crying in the rain, if that's not your cup of tea, you click right over to VCW. You can have superpowered exorcist dropping the big elbow on Beelzebub.
Yeah.
If this isn't your thing, then
I
you can
bet the
body
demon
slam
didn't
the
expect
ghost
that.
train.
Yes. Evil wasn't expecting a haymaker to the face.
Yes, no, it was. And boy, if the morality in VCW is about as black and white as it gets.
Can you smell what Jesus is cooking?
But
He's
I
cooking
mean,
divine
sometimes
powers.
that's fun, right? Like just to give it up and not
Yeah.
think about it and just go with it. That's what is it? Reacher. Have you guys seen that? The new Amazon show Reacher, based on Lee Child's
Nah.
character Jack Reacher.
The
And
one
somebody
that's
was
not Tom
telling me,
Cruise?
yeah,
Oh, no, I
yeah.
haven't seen that.
Somebody was telling me that they were like, oh, this is like I can't remember what they said, but it was like they were comparing it to like a kind of gory movie because it's pretty graphic and everything. And I'm like, I think it's a Western. You know who's the villain? You know who's the good guy? He's smarter than smart, bigger than big. It's like a John Wayne Western. It's just for today.
And speaking of that, Ishii Cat, do you mind if I talk a little bit about one of my new projects that's down the pipeline?
Not at all. Please tell us
Okay.
about your new project.
Yeah, well, this story does not have a title yet, I'm afraid, but this is going to be another series, and it's going to be closer to VCW than to Vagabond Legacy. It is heavily inspired by one of my favorite writers of all time, and that's Ian Fleming, the author
Oh.
of 007, James Bond. And this is going to be a spy adventure that is very, very similar to that. The basic elevator pitch is a homeless drifter with a very unusual and violent past discovers what is essentially James Bond dying in an alleyway. And he comes to this James Bond character's aid, and the guy says,
Is this Prince
"Hey,
and the
I'm
Pauper
dying.
meets
I'm
Jack
not getting
Reacher?"
out of here. I have a mission that I need to finish. Would you be me, pretend to be me, and finish my mission?" So this rough, badass, like Clint Eastwood type guy has to suddenly put on the suit and pretend to be the world's greatest secret agent.
Nice.
And that's what I'm working with after VCW comes to its end.
I love it.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be, if you're a fan of the old James Bond movies, it's going to be like that.
I was about to say, is it going to be, because the books were more like spy-ish.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of the books. It's going to be a bit of the movies. I'm a big fan of both of them. So
Right.
if you like that kind of international espionage with really colorful villains and henchmen and settings, cool gadgets, beautiful women, cool badass dudes, that's what it's going to be.
Who doesn't like beautiful women?
Well, that and what I love about Fleming is that he was actually friends with a lot of real spies and put a lot of their stories in his books, like that whole bit of Bond, swimming up to a party, taking his swimsuit off, and he's got a tux underneath. That actually happened.
Yeah,
So-
Ian Fleming was a fascinating man on so many levels, and I really think one of the greatest writers of the 20th century. If you haven't read the original 007 novels, I really recommend that you go back and do that. Even if you've seen the movies, there is a lot of good stuff in there that never made its way onto the screen.
Mm-hmm. No, a lot of stuff. Actually, a section of the Spy Museum is dedicated to Fleming. So,
Wow.
and that's another place I highly recommend going, is seeing all the crazy shit that people actually built and used. So,
Well, we're coming up to the last 10
Mhm.
minutes, so I think this is the time to do gratuitous promoting.
yes. So, William, anything else you want to talk about? Share with the audience, tell people where they can find you online, buy all your books, any what's what I'm looking for. Are you going to be anywhere for signings or anything this year?
Oh, I'm afraid I don't do I don't really do conventions or signings at this point anyway. But if you want to get my books, my Amazon link is in the description. VCW and Crimson Spark are both available now. They're great. Both sequels, VCW 2, which doesn't have a real title yet, and The Opal Embers are going to be coming out before the end of this year. So if you want to stay updated on those, you can go to my website at tgrpress.org. There should be a link in the description for that, and sign up for my mailing list, or you can follow me on Instagram. I post pretty frequently my updates on there as well. I'm really grateful to everybody that's purchased over the last hour. I hope you enjoy the stories. Please, if you do or if you don't, reach out to me. I love to hear from people. Thank you all for listening. It's been a real pleasure.
Wonderful. And again, it's been wonderful chatting with you again, William.
Thank you. It's so great to be back.
And links for all of these things are in the description.
Mm-hmm. Who would like to go next?
Well, I apologize for my mic. I just wanted to make sure that I wouldn't get like any weird echo feedback to you guys. But yes, my own stuff is just on my blog for now. And I decided I'm going to release all the books as singles first. So I'm getting Old Con to commission the covers for that as well. And then the omnibuses, when those release, will have the extra novellas in them. So in case people like to double dip, I'll warn them ahead of time. Yay. So if you want superheroes that are actually uplifting and aspirational and, superversive, which means uplifting people rather than grinding them into the dirt, then give up with Protocol Try. Or if you want to wait for the release, then wait for the release.
I am holding out hope, Fiona, that eventually you'll get this thing published, you'll get your audience, and then Silver Empire will welcome you in as you write for their superhero world.
I think I'd have fun with that too. Most certainly.
Because I think you'd be a perfect fit for them.
Buddy.
Well, I'm going to try.
Hello, I'm Buddy, otherwise known as Blade Knight Productions. And I have Sins of the Fae at sinsofthefae.com, which is a story about how the humans welcome the Fae when they come to our world. They start coming to our world deliberately. And we welcome them, and then our gods are not happy with that. So they turn against us. And since we have no gods to worship or to save us, we have to become our own heroes and save ourselves.
Sorry.
And that will be as a comic series and light novel.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and they're different because it's different to write for a comic than it is a light novel. So if you're into a more slow burn, but like a lot more information, then the book is for you. If you want to get right into the action and have a kind of short, slow stint, and then as the roller coaster, apexes and begins to come down, it never stops. It just goes from there. It goes boom and never stops.
Okay, what about you? Where can we find you online?
Me?
Yeah, what the hell do you do?
I edit.
Very well, I might add.
Oh, thank you. Yes, although my plate is still a little full, I probably won't be able to start taking on some jobs for another couple of months or so. But people can definitely find me at nighteditor.com. That's KNIGHT editor.com. You can also find me at the same name, Night Editor, on Instagram and on I am back on the Twatter, yes, but I'm not there too often. I'm only, mainly, poke my head and see how, what scum and villainy is happening, and then and say, hey, come check out our awesome, shows and books, and leave. But feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to talk to nice people on there. So.
And it is I, your pal Jay Shirofini, author and alien in a human suit. And you can find me here all the damn time podcasting. And when I'm not, you should be reading or listening to one of my books. I've been promoting my books quite a bit. So why don't we push the audios? I've got Titanium Rain. And with everyone worried about World War III, maybe you should listen to my take on it. Titanium Rain, it's only like, $6 on Audible? Full cast
Yep.
audio. Or you can pick up Whispers from the Abyss with a story by Kat,
Yes.
a story by a few other bigger names than me, and my story, Death, War, Grease Paint.
Yes. Read by Lance Roger X.
Yes. Who has read for just about everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think, man, like with your punk rock background, I think one of the coolest things you could do is create a playlist for people to have next to these books.
That's not a bad idea.
I published that in the original Utopiates, remember?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you did.
That's not a bad idea. I should really go back to that. Although I must admit that Titanium Rain doesn't need one.
Mm-mm.
Because I commissioned Jonathan Sharp of the band New Mind, also known as Biotech, to do an original soundtrack.
Which you can also get on Amazon.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Mhm.
which is also available on Amazon.
Mhm.
Well, there you go. See, but I think that's, I don't know. I just think that the marriage of the music and the narrative would be a fantastic composition for people to indulge.
I'm glad we're talking about this because I secretly make playlists for all my books, and I was kind of embarrassed. So
Really?
No. I listen to music and podcasts and everything else under the sun while I'm writing. I need something in my ears while I'm writing.
I used to, but then I found like I would start writing according to the song. Like I wrote I was listening to Ellie Gould and some song that was like about burning or something. And so I wrote about a phoenix exploding and burning an entire building. So, I'm like, why did I do that?
Well, I will say that the first issue of Utopias was actually somewhat inspired by the song Addiction by Skinny Puppy.
Cool.
And William, what were you going to say?
Oh no, I was just voicing the fact that I'm glad that I'm not the only person who thinks about music and stories at the same time.
Well, like what influenced your wrestling book?
The wrestling book was influenced mostly by wrestling themes, like professional wrestlers' entrance music.
Nice. Hence why you had your entrance music picked out.
Yes, I have. The book describes the entrance musics of all the characters, actually, so you can get an image of it in your head. And if this ever were to be, I don't know, dramatized in any sense, I think music would play a big part in it.
Nice. Actually, I was going to ask if you were able to add some of that music to your audiobook.
Or maybe next time.
Well, yeah, classical music. I mean, it's license free.
I
Oh, that would be
admit, I do
interesting.
like audiobooks that do the whole ensemble cast, and then they'll have the little sound effects in the background, kind of like some of the old style radio
That's
plays.
that's
Those
a
are fun.
audio drama.
Yeah, those are fun.
I've only seen a few companies that actually do that, and usually it's they work with specific, either it's somebody doing their own thing, or I've only seen one company that does it outside of that, that's like a third party thing that does it for just anybody who pays. I remember listening to one from Brandon Sanderson, and it was nothing like what I imagined in my head.
Oh,
It
my.
was like they had this one character, what are the Stormblast or whatever, and every time he made a a move, I considered it, I guess because I watch so much anime, right? Like I'm thinking like an anime move, and they had it more like, I don't know, like 60s Hong Kong Fooey.
Oh, wow.
Anyway.
Well, A Titanium Rain is a full cast audio drama with sound and everything.
Pocket Universe.
Yeah, Pocket Universe. They do excellent work. And in fact, not only did they let me commission my own soundtrack, they let me do some of my own sound effects.
Fantastic.
Nice.
All right.
So, yeah. All right, then. Thank you again so much, William, for joining us this evening. Thank you, Blood Knight Buddy. Thank you, Fiona. And thank you, everyone in the chat, for joining us. This has been an absolutely wonderful evening. And please check out all the links in the description below to find all of William's things if you haven't done so already. And I hope everyone has a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.